Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. Last year, Father's Day started like any other. I was always the first to wake up. I could never get enough sleep. So I knew it would be some time before my wife, with whom I had lived for 18 years, and my 18 and 17-year-old girls would wake up and join me. Every year on Mother's Day, I cooked my wife a good breakfast with mimosas. For lunch, I prepared a cheese, fruit, and nut plate for her, with a bottle of good white wine. For dinner, I would cook her favorite dinner, steak and grilled baked potatoes, combined with a good Cabernet Sauvignon wine. When the girls were younger, they helped with breakfast and the obligatory accompaniment of their mother on their heels. But when they began to grow up, I was left on my own. It's not a big deal. My wife usually reciprocated by cooking a special breakfast, although on Father's Day I fried steaks for dinner. So last year on Father's Day, I waited for my wife to wake up to make me breakfast, which does not happen on any other day of the year. She doesn't know it, but I usually have a little snack when I wake up around 6. I would starve to death if I didn't eat until she wakes up around 9, which is early for her on weekends. When she woke up, she kissed me, wished me a happy Father's Day, and started cooking a special breakfast for the family. For lunch, we went to a small kitschy cafe with sandwiches on the theme of Doctor Who, and overall it was a good day. My wife is a calendar slave and knows when all the important dates fall out. She manages everything from holidays to children's activities with the help of an eraser calendar hanging on the side of the kitchen cabinet. All holidays, significant dates, school events, afternoon tea, etc. are recorded in the calendar. Nothing is ever missed. Except when I miss something, of course. The next year, when my wife was putting dates on the calendar at the end of May, she said, "Hey Bill, this year your birthday falls on Father's Day." It wasn't the first time, so I wasn't surprised. "Great. Do not be stingy and do not deceive me by not giving 2 gifts." Katie replied with a laugh, "You will never leave me alone if you are deceived with a gift. This year I'm going to have to do something special for you." Leaving the kitchen, I kissed her on the cheek and squeezed her ass. I hoped she meant something more than the annual birthday and Father's Day treats. She started to make me feel good when we were making ordinary love, but she never brought it to the end. Usually, they were part of the foreplay except for these 2 days when she was, so to speak, completing the work. She made me feel good, without thinking about what she would get in return, on my birthday and Father's Day. I usually pushed her to the limit when she did it. I wasn't a jerk. The weeks leading up to my big day were strange in our house. My wife was acting strangely. She worked late, snapped at me and the girls about little things, and dressed better for work. She worked as a bakery manager at our local grocery store. She had never worn makeup to work before, but around this time she started doing it. She also wore a robe over her clothes, which consisted of a white button-down shirt and trousers. She left another button undone, which further showed off her ample cleavage. I started to have doubts when she went out without me on the Friday before my birthday. We went out quite often with the main group of married couples, so she rarely went out with the girls alone. If someone was going to have a drink and invited her along, she would tell me the place and I would meet them. It's not like I was an ogre and didn't let her do things on her own. She always said she liked spending time more if I was with her. I was pleased, and I thought that because of such little things we have a pretty strong marriage. For my part, I didn't do much without her either outside of our social circle. It just worked for us. We weren't party people or big drinkers. Our idea of a pleasant Friday night was to lie on the couch together and watch a couple of movies. That's why I was surprised when I saw her coming down the stairs that Friday, fully dressed. She was wearing a new short skirt, flesh-colored stockings, and high-heeled shoes. Besides, she had obviously been to the solarium and had her hair done. I whistled. "Damn, honey, did I forget that we were going on a date?" "Let me get dressed quickly." "No, Bill, I'm meeting with colleagues from work. I thought you could order a pizza for yourself since our girls are going out too." I was shocked. She never mentioned it, and it wasn't on her precious calendar. "Oh? You didn't tell me you had plans. I thought we'd finish our shows tonight." A look of fear appeared on her beautiful face, but then she caught herself thinking and softened. "I'm sorry, kid. I was just invited today." I made it clear that I was studying her from head to toe. "So you just found out today, and in the hour that you were free from work before me, you bought a new skirt, went to sunbathe, and did your hair?" I was getting angry. She lied to me, but I couldn't prove it. I couldn't believe she could cheat on me. It wasn't in her nature. She was the epitome of a suburban soccer mom, wife, and mother. Our life was wonderful. We still made love several times a week. She had no reason to cheat on me. She attacked me. I worked half a day today, and I wanted to look good for a change. Before I could answer, she walked out the door without saying another word, leaving me wondering what the hell happened. I waited for her, and she returned home shortly before midnight. Her hair was no longer loose, but gathered into a regular ponytail. So much for the hairstyle. She walked past me without saying a word and went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard the shower running. I could only shake my head and wonder what she had done that required taking a shower before going to bed. She didn't come down and say goodnight before going to bed. I knew that something was wrong in my little perfect world, and I wondered how wrong it was. I work in retail management, so I was at work on Saturday morning. Usually, when I was going to work, I would wake her up and she would kiss me goodbye in her sleep. That morning, I didn't get anything. Again, I was shocked. When I arrived at the store, I saw Missy waiting at the entrance. Missy was the morning barista at the coffee shop, our big store. She was a pretty red-haired girl whose blue eyes were amazing. No matter how happy I was in my marriage, I couldn't ignore her. I've always liked redheads. "Hi, Bill," she called as I approached the entrance. It was still locked as there was half an hour left before the store opened. The guys from the night crew could have let her in, but as she told me once, she didn't feel comfortable alone in the store with a bunch of guys. "Good morning, Missy," I said, opening the doors for us. "What's wrong, Bill? You look like someone killed your cat." "Sorry, I have a lot of worries today." She looked at me strangely, but ignored it. "Give me a few minutes and I'll pour you a cup of our best." Forcing myself to smile, I said, "That sounds good. See you soon." I closed the doors while she hurried to prepare the cafe for the morning rush. I knew she would be very busy as soon as the store opened. It was always a hard morning for our little cafe. While I was walking around the floor, I checked the teams that were preparing their departments. I always did my rounds in the morning. It wasn't necessary because I had a very good team of department managers, but it gave me the opportunity to say hello and make small talk. I thought it was important to maintain good relations with my team members, and I think they appreciated my efforts. The last stop on my walk was a coffee shop, where Missy already had my big black coffee waiting. "Here you go, boss. 1 cup of the best coffee from Megamart." "Thank you, Missy." I put $2 on the counter. "No bill. Today it's on the house." "No way, Missy. I'm paying for everything here. The last thing I need is for someone to get mad and call the corporation to report me." She sighed. "Bill, I would never." "I didn't mean you, Missy. But I can't risk it, even for a $2 coffee. You'd be surprised what kind of things I have to deal with if I deny someone a day off or cut overtime. It's just not smart." "All right, boss. Fair." I waved goodbye and sipped my drink. I am sure that some employees from time to time received free coffee. It's impossible to track it, and who needs it? Too much work because of cheap coffee. I can't imagine watching hours of videos to find out if everyone is paid. For me, it was different. Being in charge of the company was fraught with certain risks. Employees lost their temper over the stupidest things. I called the HR department because I was monitoring parking regulations. Seriously? Calling the HR department because you have to park in the backyard? It's ridiculous. The day ended and passed quite unnoticed. Most of all, I was worried about the old lady who stole cat food and bird grain. I just needed a day like this. I was busy enough not to think about my newfound problems with my wife, but not so busy that I couldn't get everything done on time. When I walked through the door of the house, my wife and daughters were already leaving. I was surprised for a moment, but I looked at the calendar. "Bye, Dad," each of my daughters said, kissing me on the cheek goodbye. My loving wife didn't say anything. They were going to a concert with other moms and daughters. It had been planned for a long time and was on the calendar, but as usual, I forgot. I was hoping that I would have the opportunity to talk to Katie and figure out what was going on. I hated not knowing what she was doing the night before. After not thinking about it all day, I had no choice but to fixate on it in the evening. I had the opportunity to poke around a bit. I checked her email but decided that nothing would work, and so it was. No one else was sending emails. She had the phone, so I couldn't check her messages and call log. I went to the basket to check her clothes from the previous night, but since it was Saturday, she had already washed them. I didn't achieve anything, and after watching the movie, I went to bed feeling no better than before. I woke up on my birthday/Father's Day and started the day as usual. After eating a couple of slices of toast, I drank coffee and went out on the terrace to enjoy the morning. It was a great day. I enjoyed the chirping of birds and thought about what awaits me on my special day. Around 9 o'clock, I went inside to top up my coffee and was surprised to see that my wife and daughters were up and packing lunch. "What's going on?" I asked, wondering why they didn't make me pack somewhere. My daughter Jill replied, "We're going to the beach." "Oh," I said, and went upstairs to get dressed for the lake. When I was putting on my shirt, I heard my daughter Jenny scream, "Bye, Dad, see you later." The door closed and I looked out the window to see my wife and daughters leaving. I couldn't believe it. Of course, I didn't expect the girls to remember my birthday. I had to remind them of their mother's birthday and Mother's Day, but I couldn't understand why Katie didn't remember. As I walked down the stairs, I heard my cell phone ring. Hoping that they understood everything and were going to tell me that they would come back for me, I rushed there, but no, it was my mom. "Hi, Billy. Happy birthday and Father's Day." "Thanks, Mom." "Does Katie have big plans for you guys today?" "No, she took the girls to the beach a few minutes ago." "Really? It's not like her. I'd bet she'll make you a good breakfast and make this day special for you." "Yes, to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on right now. She's been acting weird for weeks now." "Well, don't fuss about it. Maybe she has something special planned for later. I have to go to church. I love you, Billy." "I love you, Mom. My mother needed to be loved. She was an eternal optimist and loved Katie like her own flesh and blood. He and Katie have been visiting each other regularly since my dad died a few years ago. Katie wanted to make sure that Mom wasn't too lonely. And so I was sitting there wondering what the hell was going on with my marriage when the phone rang again. It was my assistant manager, Anne. "Bill, we had an incident at the coffee shop this morning." "What happened?" "Missy was on the stairs when a customer pushed her. She lost her balance and fell." "Oh my God, is she okay?" "She was taken to St. Alex's Hospital for an x-ray. Maybe she has a broken arm or something." "Damn it, poor girl. Do you have a shift?" "Yes, we have everything ready. I just didn't want you to catch me off guard tomorrow." "I'm sorry to bother you on Father's Day. Don't worry about it, Anne. Thanks for the call." I was hoping Missy would be okay. I spent some time tinkering around the house and, deciding that they would not return, went to have breakfast at the IHOP. It turned out to be a mistake for my state of mind. There was a long wait, and everywhere I looked there were families, happy families celebrating fathers and grandfathers. I left before I started crying. After driving through McDonald's, I got a big breakfast with coffee and orange juice. The pancakes turned out to be surprisingly delicious while I was sitting in the park and eating with a plastic fork and knife. I was looking at a small lake where I used to take my girls boating when they were little. They loved the water. Whether it was swimming, boating, or even fishing, they loved to visit the lake. When they grew up and almost went to college, they lost interest in fishing. And looking back, I think they lost interest in spending time with me at all. In those days, all their walks were with their mother. This is probably the right thing to do. Shopping for clothes with my father, I'm sure, would be painful for a young girl. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there was no news from his wife. I suppose there won't be a lunch together. After going to the Doctor Who cafe, I ordered a Reuben. Of course, it had a title related to the series, like Revolution of the Daleks Reuben or something equally stupid. Being a 40-year-old man who has no idea what's cool and what's not, I took a photo and signed up for Facebook. I received the usual likes and comments with Father's Day greetings from my friends and colleagues. Strangely, my mother-in-law commented that she thought I was on the beach with my wife and the girls. It looks like my wife posted beach photos on her Facebook page. After finishing my sandwich, I went to the sports bar next to the house. I haven't watched a ball game for a long time and decided to drown my sorrows in Miller Lite. The bar was full, and I wasn't in the mood for it, so I went to the cigar parlor next door and treated myself to a $60 Opus X. Wish me a happy birthday. I sat down at the table and turned on the Sox game, and a couple of guys playing cards invited me to join them. "I'm Bill," I said, introducing myself to the older gentleman. "I'm Lance, and this is my brother Jerry. Nice to meet you both." They finished the deal and invited me to their little 5-card game. "Help yourself, Bill," Lance said, kicking the cooler on the floor. I thanked him and took out the Miller Lite. "No children? Or are they at the X's with her new man?" Jerry asked with a grin. I frowned. "My wife and the girls are on the beach. They don't seem to know what day it is." "It sucks," Lance added. "I don't see my boyfriends very often. Both serve." Jerry nodded. "My baby lives in California. My grandson Charlie has just turned 2 years old. I'm going there next week. That's good, I said. Since my girls are already 17 and 18, I began to miss small children. They both nodded understandingly. After some time of small talk, we somehow returned to the topic of my wife. Do you think she's really forgotten, or is she deliberately avoiding you? Jerry asked. It was a great question and something I was thinking about too. I told them about the last few weeks, right up to Friday's problems, and they shook their heads. She's cheating on you, Lance said. Jerry nodded in agreement. I can't believe it, I said, but as soon as he said it, I realized that it was the only explanation that made sense, and I tried to believe that it wasn't. Listen, Bill, Lance said, I've been through this before. Changes in behavior, sudden nocturnal adventures and cheating clothes, disrespect. I was there and did it, buddy. My wife made love to a work colleague a couple of times, and when I found out, I divorced her. The biggest mistake of my life. What? I snapped. She cheated on you. How can divorcing her be a mistake? In my understanding, there were no excuses. Cheating is the end of a marriage, plain and simple. Period. The end of the story. Bill, I was broke for 5 years, paying her alimony and child support. Every damn day I missed her. Loved her across town in my lonely apartment while she was alone in my house. She may have cheated on me, but I was too much of a wimp to forgive her at the time. It's been 7 years, but we're back together after I pulled my head out of my ass. Now we are happy. Jesus, I said. Giving my body to another man is the biggest insult and disrespect my wife could ever do. If what you're saying is true and she's having an affair, then she's either so taken with her lover that she forgot about my birthday, or she's deliberately turning me down. Any of these options is unacceptable. Lance shook his head. Bill, trust me. If you really love her, find a way to forgive her. You'll be better off in the long run. 40-year-old guys don't get a second chance at love. Thanks, Lance. You've given me a lot to think about. Maybe that's what I said, but what I really thought was that he was crazy. There was no way I could forgive her for having an affair, and no way I could stay married to her. After shaking hands with both men, I wished them well and left. When I was sitting on the couch and browsing Facebook, it was almost dinner time. I saw the posts of my daughters and my wife with photos of their happy day, and I was even more saddened. To hell with it, I thought. I needed to pull myself together and stop acting like a lost child. My wife forgot about my birthday. It happens that way. She forgot about Father's Day. What's the difference? The important thing is that I was sure she had cheated on me on Friday night, and probably many times in the previous weeks, she had behaved strangely. The fact that she was rubbing it in my face should have been her ultimate goal. Well, she finished it well. It was time to prepare for the rest of my life. Then I decided to go to dinner at my favorite restaurant. Of course, I knew it would take a long time, but it was okay. I had nothing to do. So I took a shower, put on a sports coat and trousers, and went to get a steak. I was sitting in the steakhouse bar waiting for a table when an elderly man sat down in an empty seat next to me. He saw my bottle of champagne with one glass and frowned. Fortunately, he didn't say anything, but just ordered a martini. When the bartender filled my glass, the man apparently couldn't resist. Are you celebrating alone, or have I taken someone else's place? No, I said. It's all right. I'm the only one here. He nodded and sipped his drink. He must have been in sales because he couldn't sit still. Yes, I'm waiting for my 3 generations of red furies. My wife is helping my daughter, who broke her arm today. I think she doesn't take the need to do everything with her left hand very well. He laughed and continued. You just don't expect your grown children to break bones. I thought those days were over. I agreed with his opinion and nodded. It looks like I'm going to cook on my own for a few weeks. My wife will have to take care of Missy and Mia and leave me alone. I jerked my head up. What did you say? Before he could answer, the little girl shouted, Grandpa! From the other side of the room and stormed through the crowded bar. A little girl with red curls jumped on his lap and showered the man with hugs and kisses. A moment later, I heard, Bill! Turning around, I saw Missy and, as I assumed, her mother standing next to me. Her mother looked like herself. Except for a few wrinkles around the eyes, they looked exactly the same. Hi, Missy. How's your arm? It's okay. I take strong painkillers, so I don't feel much. But it hurt like hell when it was set. Missy introduced her parents, Jack and Mary, to me, and then her adorable daughter, Mia. Where's your wife, Bill? What is it? She asked. I don't know. She took my girls to the beach this morning, and I haven't heard from them all day. Really? On Father's Day. Worse than that, today is also my birthday. Oh my God, did she turn you down on the best day of the year for you? What is her problem? I didn't want to get into it and say more than I probably already should, so I shrugged my shoulders. Well, forget about her. You should join us, Mary said decisively. Now it became clear what Jack meant when he spoke about the red rage. I'm not. Forget it, Bill. You don't want them to turn on you. It would be ugly, Jack said with a grin, which testified to his many years of experience in confrontation with them. But it's your day, Jack. I don't want to interfere. Bullshit, he said. This is our day. Grandpa, you said it. I know, Pumpkin. I said a bad word. Grandma will punish me later. Dad, he winked at me when the buzzer sounded for their table. Pay your bill, Bill, and meet us at our table. No excuses, he said in the tone of a drill instructor. He threw a 20 on the counter and left. I'm sorry, Bill. My parents can be slow-witted. Don't worry, Missy. I guess it's better than eating alone. The conversation at dinner was easy. Bill and I told stories about our daughters growing up, and Mia asked a lot of questions. She was constantly giggling at awkward stories about her mother as a child. After dinner, my phone rang. I saw that it was my wife, ignored the call, and put the phone on the table. Your wife? Mary asked. Yes. There's more to it than you want to say, isn't there? Missy asked. I think so, but I have no proof. Bill, everyone makes mistakes, Mary said, looking straight at Jack. Maybe you can find a way to forgive her. Missy cocked her head and looked at Mary. I called the waiter over and handed him my credit card. Well, I've ruined your meeting enough. Thank you for inviting me to share a meal with you. Bill, let me... No, Jack. It was an honor to have dinner with you, and especially with one of my best employees. It's on me. Happy Father's Day. I shook their hands and went over to the waiter to sign the check. I didn't even have hard evidence that she was cheating on me, but I've already been in a situation twice where people have told me that I have to forgive her. What's wrong with people? My phone rang over and over, but I ignored it. I drove into my garage and was greeted by two circling dervishes giving kisses and hugs, apologizing for abandoning me on Father's Day. Girls, don't worry about it. I don't expect you to remember when my birthday is. Is it your birthday today? Jill screamed. Then she ran into the house, screaming at my wife. Dad, we didn't know. I'm so sorry, she sobbed against my chest. You probably hate us. No, baby. I love you more than life itself. When she suggested we go to the beach last night, we just jumped at the chance. We didn't think, baby, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not mad at you. I didn't tell her that I was mad at her mother, but that was my problem, not my daughter's. Let's go inside. I walked through the kitchen, ignoring my crying wife, who was being scolded by my daughters, and went upstairs to change my clothes. After putting on shorts and a t-shirt, I returned to the war zone and found my wife crying alone. I'm so sorry, she murmured. I shook my head and went out onto the terrace with a beer and a cigar. It was a beautiful night, and I was enjoying the peace of mind, thinking about work and not about my wife, when the sliding door opened. Bill, What's his name? I interrupted her. I didn't look at her, and she didn't go onto the terrace. Bill, what's his name? The man you used on Friday. My anger was growing. I heard the door close, but she didn't come out. She didn't bother to deny it. Then I realized that I was going to see a divorce lawyer soon. Almost 20 years of marriage have gone to waste. What a stupid woman I married. That's when I started thinking about the worst. How long has she been cheating? Was he her first? Did I know him? Were these girls even mine? It's amazing what negative thoughts come into your head when you're being treated so badly. I decided, as part of the divorce, to demand a paternity test for the girls. It would not only be for my peace of mind, but also for Katie's embarrassment. I spent the rest of the night researching divorce laws online and then fell asleep on the couch. That's how I spent my birthday. I woke up at a gloomy 5 in the morning. In the bedroom, I found Katie curled up on my pillow, fast asleep. It's funny how peaceful she looked compared to how poorly I slept. Her body was naked, and her ass, covered with panties, was visible. She was so beautiful, it's a pity she's not mine anymore. I would miss her body. I grabbed everything I needed and took a shower as fast as I could. I managed to escape without waking her up, but Jill was waiting for me in the hallway. How bad is it, Daddy? I sighed. It's as bad as it can be. Can you forgive her? I mean, she just forgot one day. Honey, she didn't just forget my birthday or Father's Day. She cheated on me. She was suffocating. No, Dad, she wouldn't. She did it and I won't accept it. Think about it. She's been acting strangely for the last few weeks. On Friday evening, she went out dressed as a cheater. It definitely wasn't for me. She shook her head. Baby, she avoided me all day on Saturday and Sunday. She clearly felt either guilty or hated me and didn't want to be around me at all. When has she ever taken you to the beach without me? It's always a family trip. What if it's not a novel? What if it was only once? Can't you forgive her in one go? I doubt that was the case, honey, but look at all her actions. Has she shown that she loves me at least once this weekend? Dad, you didn't see the look on her face when Grandma called her to ask why she didn't call Grandpa and wish him a happy Father's Day. She dropped the phone and screamed, "No!" so loudly that we thought Grandpa was having a heart attack or something. He's fine, Dad. Mom sobbed on her knees until we picked her up and sat her down on the couch. She kept saying she loved you over and over again. To be honest, Jenny wanted to call an ambulance for her. She thought she was going to have a breakdown. We calmed her down and were able to get her to call you. Jill, I do not know what you expect me to say. She doesn't love me. You cannot cheat on your spouse and love him. This is not an act of love, it is selfishness. Love should be selfless. When she got intimate with another man, she threw me away. She hugged me and cried. I'm going to assume it wasn't some random guy she picked up at a bar. She had to flirt or accept his flirting with her. There should have been intimate touches, perhaps kisses and caresses. All this preceded the first love with him. All these actions preceding love are a betrayal of the spouse. You can't be in love with someone and show someone else an intimate affection. Please don't divorce her. I have to go to work. We'll talk later. She entered Jenny's room. I'm sure, of course, to introduce her to what we were talking about. There will be no more secrets in our family. I was wondering how long we would be a family for. I knew that Katie would be too busy at work to try to call or text me, so I had peace most of the day. The only thing that made this day unusual was filling out corporate forms related to Missy's accident. She was supposed to be compensated for her vacation, and I hoped she wouldn't worry too much. I didn't know anything about her personal life except that she wasn't married. She came to sign the forms and fill out the accident report. I wrote it for her, as she was not good with her left hand, and she signed it. How are things at home? What is it? She asked. Not really. She didn't deny it when I told her about her affair. Damn it, Bill. I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't want to know my life story, but I understand how you feel. My ex-husband cheated on me while I was pregnant. I kicked him out before my daughter was born. My mom was furious. She basically called me a throwaway. Oh my God. It seemed strange to me when your mom mentioned my wife's forgiveness last night. She was looking right at your father when she said that. Yes, I noticed that too. I'm not sure who exactly, but it makes me think one of them cheated. I'm sorry. It's not worth it. They seem to be happy, so they are free to live as they please. I prefer never to trust cheaters. Me too, I said firmly. Katie wasn't home when I got home from work. She was probably making love to her stallion, and I got mad. Back in the car, I drove 2 miles to her grocery store. I saw her car in the parking lot, and to my surprise, she was sitting in it with a young man. When I stopped in front of her car, she noticed me and I saw her scream. No. She opened the door, but I drove away. If she was going to cheat on me, he could take her away. I've had enough. When I got home, I ran upstairs to pack my bag. I planned to stay in a hotel until I found an apartment. Before I knew it, Jenny and Jill were crying and begging me to stay. I'm sorry, girls, but your mom was just about to cheat on me when I caught her. She was in a car with some guy when I pulled up to her. Dad, this must be a mistake. Girls, I know what I saw. She had a man in her car. Why would she stay after work and keep a man in the car if she wasn't going to take him somewhere? She can't say they were just having lunch. There's no innocent explanation for the fact that she ended up in the back parking lot after work, with a man in the car. Dad, please don't break up our family, Jenny sobbed. Honey, your mother broke up our family. It's not my fault. I pulled them into a group hug and kissed them on the cheeks. I love you, girls. I will be in touch with you every day. Leaving them crying in the bedroom, I went to the garage. As I was leaving the garage, I was almost hit by Katie, rushing like a bat out of hell. I shook my head and drove on. The next week was nothing but pure hell. I refused to answer my wife's calls, and for the first 3 days, she called me every hour for an hour. She must have taken a week off because she couldn't make calls from the workshop and had to stay on the floor all day. She left countless messages begging me to call her. I deleted each of them. After those 3 days, my mother, mother-in-law, both daughters, and Katie's sister begged me to talk to her. They all said it wasn't as bad as I thought, but every time I asked them if she cheated on me, they wouldn't answer. They all knew that, yes. They just didn't admit it. I stopped answering everyone's calls. I told my daughters that I would talk to them, but their mother should not be mentioned. I had to hang up the phone twice before they believed I was serious. At the end of the week, I met with a lawyer. I wanted a simple division of the property in half. She could own the house until the girls moved out. Then we would have sold it. The lawyer said that I could get more than half of the proceeds for the house, since my contribution to the down payment and monthly payment is more than Katie's contribution, but I told him that I need to split everything equally. I thought alimony or maintenance was a foregone conclusion, but it turned out that since my wife earns enough money to support herself, I won't have to pay her anything. That was the best news I've had in a while. I won't have to pay her to make love to her lover. The only problem was that I had no proof of her cheating. The judge could have prevented this and reduced the case to irreconcilable differences, and I would have had to prove that we were trying to establish a relationship. I'd take a chance. While my lawyer was preparing to file for divorce, life went on. There was no forced mediation or consultation. There will be no lawsuits for alienation of affection. There would not have been a long, drawn-out struggle. The division was fair, and any judge could make sure of it, even with a blindfold. But nothing is that simple. What she could do was fight. When she was handed the documents, she again unleashed the whole barrage of family attacks on me. It turned out that she only used a guy once that Friday before my birthday. Or is it that she convinced everyone of what happened? I was branded a bad guy because I didn't let her explain, as if any explanation would be acceptable. My mother basically called me a wimp because I didn't fight for my marriage. My mother-in-law told me that we were even because I also broke my vow by not staying with her during the worst of times. My daughters told me that I should stay in the family because our divorce would leave them scarred for life. It was surreal. I didn't do anything wrong, but I was accused of divorce. Shit got into the fan when I asked my daughters to give me saliva for DNA analysis. They refused until I lied to them and told them it was a court order. Katie wrote me a letter that was mailed to my store. I read it, and it said that she was hooked on the guy's attention to her. I say guy because that bastard was only 21 years old. They only made love once in the backseat of his car, and in love terms, he wasn't worth a damn. As if being a loser was supposed to fix everything? She also said that when I caught her in the car with that guy, she was going to tell him in private never to talk to her again. It didn't matter, she cheated on me once, and once was enough. The best part is that since she gave me the letter, I didn't have to prove the fact of infidelity during the divorce. She did it herself. This meant that I wouldn't have to file irreconcilable differences and prove that we were trying to mend our relationship. Karma was finally on my side. She tried to fight for a divorce, but when the judge saw the terms I proposed and her letter confirming the betrayal, he approved it. I was supposed to get divorced in 60 days, and so I was left alone, on the island of desolation. Because I refused to talk to her, I was branded immature and an asshole. Things got so bad that my mother and my daughters stopped talking to me. It hurt, but I was on the side of righteousness, and if they didn't like it, well, too bad. I called my daughters every 2 days. They never answered, but I left voice messages telling them what was going on with me and asking what was going on in their lives. I didn't let them accuse me of not talking to them. Anyway, I continued to make every effort and contact them, regardless of whether they wanted it or not. One thing has changed. I started drinking coffee with Missy on Sundays. It all started innocently enough when we bumped into each other at a local coffee shop. He and Mia lived next door and were on a walk. I invited them to join me and told her about my suffering while Mia watched cartoons on my iPad. "I'm sure your daughters will come to their senses, Bill," she said. "They are young and impressionable and live with your wife. It is not known what nonsense she put into their heads. I hope you're right. I just hope they haven't gone too far. I miss them like hell." The next week, I went into the same store at the same time and was reading when I heard, "Hello, stranger." I smiled and invited them to join me again. "Is this normal for you, or are you stalking me?" She smiled. "No, I live nearby, and on Sunday morning I like to have a cup of coffee and read. It's kind of lonely at home, so I come here." She took a sip from her cup, and we chatted about the neighborhood until we broke up. It wasn't a conscious decision to meet every Sunday, but we did. I enjoyed her company, and little Mia was just amazing. The day the divorce became final, I knocked on the front door of my old house. My wife answered, and it was obvious that she was crying. She didn't say a word, just invited me in. "Are the girls at home?" I asked. "They're watching a musical at school. I know why you're here. I expected you to come today." "Really?" I chuckled. "You waited until it was too late to stop it, didn't you?" "Yes," I said. "I knew that you would beg, and pull at my heart, trying to make peace, and I couldn't let that happen. You broke my heart, and I will never forgive you." "Damn it, Bill. It was a one-time thing. One bad mistake. Why couldn't you forgive me? Why couldn't you find a way to stay with me? Didn't you love me as much as I've loved you all these years?" I laughed. "Did you love me when you were flirting with your asshole? Did you love me when you took it in your mouth? Did you love me when you gave him all of yourself? Did you love me when you avoided me all weekend and left me alone on my birthday? If this is your idea of love, then you can't help it." "I never wanted this to happen," she sobbed. "And I never wanted a traitorous wife, but here we are." She was panting and started talking until I interrupted her. "Katie, you not only broke my heart, but you turned my mother and my daughters against me. I will never forgive you for this. It's your fault for being unreasonable. I got angry. If you don't get my mother and my daughters to apologize to me and fix everything, I will tell every man you meet that you are a traitor. I will make sure to ruin all your relationships in the future because you ruined mine. I don't need anyone else." "Wrong answer. I guess I'll just have to find other ways to hurt you and embarrass you." I got up to leave, but she grabbed my arm. "It's not my fault. You can't blame me." "Oh no, did I cheat on you? I do not think so. You know what really sucks? You let your daughters grow up and believe that cheating on your husbands is acceptable. Because of your behavior, they enter adulthood believing that you are a saint and I am a sinner, and this is normal, because it was once. Well, fuck it. I'm not going to fall down just because some asshole made you feel affectionate." I pulled her hand away from mine. "Rot in hell for leaving our marriage. Just decompose, you cheater." I left her crying after me and wasn't upset about it. A few weeks later, Missy knocked on my office door. "Do you have a minute, Bill?" "Of course, come in." I frowned when she closed the door, expecting something bad to happen now. "Bill, is there a rule in the company that prohibits meeting with other employees?" I didn't like that she was asking me about it. I was hoping I could ask her out. Looks like I'm too late. "No. We have a strong love harassment policy. This policy protects almost everything that can be damaged by a failed relationship between colleagues, and if two people can't work together after a breakup, it's their fault, not the company's." "Good. This is what I was hoping for," she said, placing a folded piece of paper on my desk. "What is it?" I asked. "My address and phone number. I'm expecting you for dinner tomorrow night. Mia will join us." With a smile, I agreed. "Good. You're a good man, Bill. You deserve to be happy, and I want to give you a second chance at happiness." She jumped out of my office with a cute spring in her step, and I was looking forward to our dinner. "Hi, it's Dad. I hope you and your sister are doing well. I have everything as usual, only the woman at work invited me to dinner. Well, anyway, I love you and miss you. Please call me as soon as possible. Bye." I knew this message would cause some problems, but I didn't care. I needed to move on, and I was thrilled that Missy decided to take this step the way she did. Missy was a beautiful woman, with an even more beautiful character. Her daughter was charming and lovely, and I had already met her parents. I felt like I was finally getting ahead in the game. It had only been 15 minutes when Katie texted me. "I can't believe you're already dating. You're a real bastard." I laughed when I read it. I didn't realize before how wrong she was. To think that I would sit and worry about her was crazy. Maybe some guys would have mourned the loss of their marriage because of their wife's infidelity, but that wasn't about me. At 41, I was young enough to find love again. Hell, I was young enough to have more kids if I wanted to. It was something to think about. Missy was about 30, and she might want to have more children in the future. I knew it was too early to think about it, but as a single mother, these things were probably at the top of Missy's list of potential suitors. I think she was looking for a husband, not a toy. Although, of course, I didn't mind becoming her toy. I haven't made love in months. The next evening, I showered and shaved after work and dressed as usual. I looked in the mirror and wasn't surprised by what I saw. I was in good shape, without spare wheels or favorite folds. I had a full head of brown hair, which had not yet turned gray. I had a great job that paid well, and I had money in the bank. I considered myself a good catch for any woman, let alone one as young as Missy. Then I realized that I had no idea how to date someone. When you are married, you are always together and know everything about each other. There was no problem holding hands or kissing. When you came home after the party, you knew there would be love. There was comfort in this status quo. God, I had to learn how to make love all over again. I knew every point on my ex-wife's body that gave her pleasure. He knew when she wanted it hard, and when she wanted to make love to her slowly. I knew where her G-spot was, and that she liked having her finger inserted into her anus. I could only hope that the next woman I would make love to would love the same thing, or at least communicate well. I was afraid that I wasn't ready for dating yet, and I regretted rushing onto the dating scene so quickly. I knocked on the door of her townhouse with a bottle of wine, flowers, and a stuffed toy. I thought it wouldn't hurt to be in Mia's good standing. When she opened the door, I was shocked by what I saw. Her curly red hair was loose around her shoulders, and she was wearing the perfect amount of makeup. She was wearing a loose sundress that was about 10 centimeters above her knees, showing off her beautiful legs. She was barefoot, and her toes were painted hot pink to match her nails. She laughed. "Have I passed the test?" "God, yes," I said before I could answer. She laughed even harder and took the flowers and wine from me. "Mia is watching TV. Go and say hello. She'll like the bear." She went into the kitchen and I knelt down next to Mia. "Hi, honey. I brought you a bear cub." She looked at me warily and then lit up the room with her smile. She held out her arms to the bear and ran to show it to Missy as soon as she picked it up. She brought back good memories of Jenny and Jill at the same age. I realized how long it had been since I had spoken to them, and I missed them even more. "What happened?" Missy asked, interrupting me from my thoughts. I forced myself to smile. "Nothing. I was just thinking about my daughters when they were Mia's age." "Is it really that bad now?" "What is it?" she asked. "They're still not talking to me. Katie turned them against me, and I can't change their minds. But I'm still trying. I leave them messages every other day, and I don't stop. I'm sorry, Bill. I know it's terrible for you." "Every day. I know they're listening to my messages. I told them about our date today, and Katie texted me that I was an asshole for getting down to business so quickly. I'm sorry, but it's not too fast, is it?" She bit her lip and looked damn cute. "Maybe," I answered honestly, "but I'm happy to find out with you." She smiled and took my hand. "Dinner is ready. I hope you like pasta with meat sauce." "That sounds great." "Oh, I have garlic bread too, so you should be prepared for the fact that you'll have to deal with it later when we're kissing on the couch." Mia giggled, and I stood there in shock that Missy was so cavalier. She saw my discomfort. "Bill, we're both adults, and I've known you for 3 years. I know what kind of person you are, and it doesn't take much to get to know you better to realize that I really like you. You're going to be a hot commodity soon, and I want to make my claims early." "Hot product?" I asked. "Yes. You have no idea how much noise the news of your divorce caused in the store. Honey, your appearance on the market, so to speak, attracted the attention of many unmarried ladies. You're a handsome man in good shape. You're smart, stable, and we all know how you feel about loyalty." I felt pretty good when I sat down at her table. "So I'm taking the cue in advance," she finished. I took her hand and squeezed it. "I like you too." Mia, not wanting to stay away, said, "Sketty is my favorite." "I like Sketty too. The thinner the better," I said. When I saw a jar of Parmesan cheese on the table, I added, "And you must have a very smelly cheese." She giggled. "It's not stinky cheese. This is Parm. "Stinky cheese," I said, holding the jar to my nose and imagining that it was the most terrible smell in the world. "Wow, this is a very smelly cheese." Missy shook her head when I handed the jar to Mia. She sniffed it, shrugged, and poured a generous amount over the spaghetti. We had a light conversation over dinner. I asked about Mia's preschool class and her friends. She had no problem chirping, telling me all the details she could remember. I enjoyed the conversation. After a while, I realized that Missy was silent. She smiled broadly and just watched as her daughter and I exchanged a few words. Eventually, she started picking up the plates, and I said, "Let me help you." "Oh no, she hasn't told you about her favorite TV shows yet." She laughed when Mia started telling me about all the best children's shows. After putting Mia to bed, Missy came back and sat next to me on the couch. I handed her a glass of wine, and she sighed contentedly, throwing her feet up on the ottoman. I like being a mom, but sometimes it's the best part of the day for me. Instinctively, I hugged her. When she snuggled up to me, I said, two are worse. I have no doubt. Do you think your girls will come to their senses? I hope so, I replied thoughtfully. Now I'm doing my best, but it's still raw for them. She turned around and kissed me on the cheek. You're a great father. Just don't give up fighting for them. She put down her glass and sat back down. Bill, I've already told you that I really like you, and I'm too old to play the game of will we or won't we. I'd like to keep seeing you, and that includes inviting you into my bedroom. I was going to tell her that we shouldn't do this, but she held up her finger. I understand that you want to be a gentleman and all that, but it's not necessary. I mean, I don't want to be your friend or friend with privileges. I warn you right away that I'm looking for an exclusive relationship. I need to think about my daughter. And to be honest, she needs a dad as much as I need a husband. I tried to speak again, but was rebuffed again. Such a conversation usually ends with the guy picking up and running away. I don't think you're like that, but I'm giving you a way out. If you want to sow oats and experience a lonely life, I'm not your girlfriend. If you want to see if we have a chance at a long life, then I'm your woman. Wow, I said. Did you prepare this speech or was it done at random? She frowned, misinterpreting my feelings. Missy, like you said, we've known each other in a working relationship for 3 years now. The last few weeks when we had coffee together were very pleasant. I'm a family man. That's all I've ever been. I can't imagine being single, and the thought of dating scares me to death. If my wife could keep her legs closed, I would still be a happily married family man. No, I don't want to play on this field. She smiled and took my hand. I continued. You are beautiful, smart, and cook excellent spaghetti. She laughed and playfully slapped me on the shoulder. I'd like to be your boyfriend. Consider me involved in creating something good for all of us, including your little girl. We didn't make love that night. As much as I wanted to take her right there on her couch, I felt it was better not to rush things. She practically confessed her love to me and got very excited, but I decided that taking my time would be better for my comfort. I received a gift from the gods when I received an application for a manager position. I never managed to find out the name of the punk who ruined my marriage, so I couldn't get back at him. But when he came to interview for the position of night manager, I immediately recognized him. He would never have recognized me, but he could have found out my name, so I asked Anne to interview him and hire him. On the second night of his work, I waited in the parking lot for him to start his shift. I went over to his car from the 90s and put a 40-inch TV that I bought from competitors in the back seat. We were selling the same model, and I accidentally found out that one of them was conveniently lying around in the warehouse. In the morning, I timed my arrival to coincide with the end of his shift. I walked him to his car, chatting along the way about what he thought of his team of guys. When we got to the car, I noticed the TV in the back seat and pretended to be shocked. Jeff, did you buy a TV before your shift? We haven't opened yet. No, Bill, it's not mine. I do not know how he got there. Jeff, I think we need to go back to the store. Bill, you have to believe me. Check the cameras. I shook my head. Good, bring the TV. We went back to the store and the kid was scared to death. I thought that at some point he would cry. We didn't have night security because since the store was closed at night and a night crew was working in it, we didn't need it. We had cameras everywhere, and there was only one place where the cameras could be turned off. Only the managers had the key to this room. There was a camera aimed at the door to the room, but it was above the doorway to the stairwell. I mentioned this to the security service a few years ago, but they never fixed this problem. Then I easily opened the door to the stairwell, got up and closed the camera with a piece of black duct tape. Then I turned off the surveillance camera system. Well, technically, I turned off the computer that was running the system. When I brought him into the room and he saw that the computer was not working, he panicked and continued to plead his innocence while I, according to the rules, called the police. When all was said and done, the guy was convicted of a misdemeanor and did not receive a prison sentence. I was hoping he would get a couple of months, but it wasn't an expensive enough TV. He had to do a lot of community service and pay a fine, which oddly enough turned out to be more than I paid for the TV. With such a crime on his record, it will also be difficult for him to find a job in retail. It made me happier, but it still wasn't worth the risk I took. However, the corporation has increased the level of security by installing cameras in the parking lot. They have been needed for a long time. He was so stupid that he never realized that I had done it. He tried to accuse the team of setting him up, but couldn't prove anything. They didn't miss him when I fired him. On a brisk Saturday morning, a week after my dinner with Missy, I saw her waiting in the car to keep warm. After I parked next to her, she met me at the door and greeted me with a pleasant kiss. Are we still having dinner tonight? What is it? She asked. Absolutely. Good. I have something special that I'm cooking for us. You don't want to miss it. I would not like to. Is this the tramp? Katie asked from behind me, interrupting me. Excuse me, Missy exclaimed, her claws completely unclenched. Katie, what do you need? I asked irritably. I've been trying to call you. Did you block my number? Yes. After your 30 messages saying that I'm a bastard, if I keep on living, I've had enough. What do you want? I want to talk about girls. We need to sort out the college. They can go wherever they want. I took care of the money for them. I would like to participate, but since you set them against me, they don't want to talk to me. They're afraid that you won't pay for school. Of course I will pay for it. I still love them, even if because you can't keep your legs closed, I lost them in the divorce. Missy laughed. Katie looked at her. It's not my fault that you couldn't forgive me for one mistake. Oh, one slip? It was only once because you weren't careful. I dealt with you right away. It doesn't matter. You should still be my husband. We still have to be a family. You're delusional. You cost me my marriage, my family, my daughters, and my mother. I swear to you, you'd better never date a man if I find out about this. You'll never see a second date. No one wants to date a cheating fool, unless they know your reputation and are looking for easy love. I turned around and walked towards the store. When I heard screams behind me, I turned around and saw that Missy had pushed Katie back against the car, pointing a finger in her face. Stay away from my man, bitch. You threw it away and I picked it up. Rushing back, I pulled her away. Stop it, Missy. She's not worth the trouble. You heard me, you fool. She shouted at Katie before turning around and walking towards the store. Please go away, Katie. It's over between us and it's your fault. Yours and yours alone. And left her sobbing by the cars. Running to catch up with my breathless Missy, I took her hand. She raised her head and smiled at me, slowing down. I'm sorry, Bill. I guess I was too territorial. Oh no. I like it when women fight over me in the parking lot. It's very good for my ego. We laughed and went inside to do some work. Later that morning, my mom called me. When I answered, she muttered, Billy, I am... She didn't finish and I heard a soft thump, but the call didn't end. I dropped the call and called back, but there was no answer. After calling 911, I asked for an ambulance to be sent to her house, but I was told that the call had already come from her house. I was afraid of the worst and asked Ann to cover for me since I have to go. She understood, and as I ran through the store, I rushed past Missy, who was shouting after me. I ignored her and ran straight to my car. When I got to my mom's house, the ambulance was already driving away, and I followed it. When I went to the opening back doors, I found that she had died before the ambulance arrived at the hospital. She must have passed out while we were talking on the phone. I was crying, sitting in the lobby of the emergency room. I was sitting there alone and thinking about the last word my mom said to me. What did she want to say? Maybe it was, I have a problem. Am I having a heart attack? I'm really sorry. My phone rang and it was Missy. Hi, my mom just died. Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you. I'm afraid I won't be good company tonight. No, I'll be with you. If you need me, please let me come. Okay, yes, I said. I didn't want to be alone, and I was glad that she was ready to be with me. I'm on my way to your house. I'll meet you there after you get out. Good. See you soon. I ended the conversation and went out to my car. Instead of going home, I went to my old house. I needed to tell my girls if they wanted to see me or not. When I got to the house, I saw both girls' cars in the driveway and sighed. I never imagined that the first words we would say to each other would be such news. I didn't care that I didn't live there anymore. I entered the code into the garage door opener and went inside. Katie's car wasn't there, and I was glad of that. I don't think I was in the right frame of mind to see her. The living room and kitchen were empty, so I went upstairs to the bedrooms. Dad, Jill shouted when I entered her room. What do you need? Jenny shouted, coming in after me. Have you come to beg? Well, you can go to... Grandma had a heart attack and died this morning, I said, interrupting her. They both suffocated. I just thought I should tell you this in person. Now I'm going to hell. I went out and closed the door behind me. I could hear Jenny yelling at me to wait, but I hurried to my car and drove away. I drove to the little lake where the girls and I spent so much happy time. It was too cold for the boats, but the water had already started to thaw, and it was very calm. I sat down on the picnic bench and started crying again. This time I cried not only for my mother, but also for the loss of my daughters. The fury in Jenny's voice told me that I was not needed in her life. She didn't have to tell me to go to hell. Her tone said it all for her. I wondered if I had made a mistake somewhere along the way. Not with Katie, but with the girls. What did I do so wrong that made them hate me so much? It was Katie who ruined our marriage. Why couldn't my daughters understand that? I don't know how long I sat there, but I heard someone come up. I turned around. It was Katie and the girls. "How did you find me here?" I asked, turning to look at the lake again. "You didn't turn off the sync of our Find Phone app," Katie said. "Bill, I'm sorry about your mom." "Yes?" I spat. "Do you regret her death or that you turned her against me and she died without our reconciliation?" She didn't say anything. "Leave me alone, I can't deal with your shit right now," I continued. "I will never forgive you for what you did to me." Our last words were her saying that she wouldn't talk to me anymore until I got smarter and stopped the divorce. She didn't even say she loved me when she dropped the phone. "I'm so sorry, Bill, for everything." I heard her leave and Jenny said, "Dad, we're sorry too. Please forgive us for being fools." I turned around and they both rushed to hug me. We cried in each other's arms for what seemed like an eternity. "It's not my fault, girls. Why can't you understand that what your mother did is the reason that we are no longer together?" "We're sorry, Dad," Jill said. "We just thought you should forgive her. She loves you, it's so obvious. Not enough to be faithful to me, Jill. I'm sorry, girls, I'm so sorry." We cuddled a little more while Katie watched from the warmth of her car. "Girls, I need you so much. You're going to college soon and I'm going to miss you. We're wasting so much time." "We get it, Dad," Jenny said. "We're not going to shut you out anymore," Jill added. "I wish your grandmother had the opportunity to do the same." "Dad, can we go with you? We haven't seen your new house yet. Maybe we could buy a pizza." "Of course. Tell Mom and let's go." When I pulled up to my driveway, I saw Missy's car. I forgot she was coming. "Girls, it looks like you're going to meet Missy." "Is she your girlfriend?" they asked in unison, making me laugh. "Yes, well, I mean, we just started dating." "Look at how he's blushing, Jenny. It's so cute." They jumped out of the car, and in the blink of an eye, they were at the car door with Missy. They bombarded her with questions, and I could see that Missy didn't understand what was going on. "Girls, leave her alone. Come inside and I'll introduce you all." They kissed me on the cheek and galloped into my garage, and I went up to a shocked Missy. "I'm sorry about that," I said when she opened her door. She smiled brightly and kissed me on the cheek. "Your daughters?" Come on, I'll officially introduce you." "I wish I knew, honey. I must look terrible." Laughing, I said, "You're fine, they'll like you. Jenny, Jill, I want to introduce you to Missy." They grouped together and hugged her. Jenny, as usual, cheekily said, "You're super cool." Jill jumped up. "Well done, Dad." Missy laughed, and I was too shocked to say anything. "Hey, let's take a quick look around the house, and then I need to sort out some business with the service for Grandma." "Bill, I'll order some pizzas while you show them around." "That sounds good, honey. You're reading my mind." "Oh," the girls cooed. I shook my head and Missy smiled. I decided that I would wait until the next morning to call and inform about my mother. On Monday, I will publish an obituary in the newspaper, and after visiting the funeral home on Sunday, I will post information about the funeral on Facebook. After dinner, we sat for several hours telling Missy stories about my mom. My girls, not so innocently, added some awkward stories about me, for Missy's amusement. It's not my fault that the pier was wet and I fell into the lake, I swear. Before I knew it, it was already past 10. "Girls, time has slipped away from me and it's getting late." They frowned. "Can we stay the night?" "I don't have beds for guest rooms yet. I'll tell you what, I'll pick you up in the morning and we'll go have breakfast, okay? If you don't mind, I could use some help too, to figure out what to do with Grandma's stuff." "Of course, Dad. We will help you with everything you need." "Thanks. Missy, do you want to go for a ride? Or do you need to go home to Mia?" "She's with my parents now." Jill jumped up. "Who is Mia?" "Mia is my 4-year-old daughter." They both screamed, and Jenny said, "Oh my God, I can't wait to meet her." Missy laughed at their excitement and said, "Sometime soon, I promise." "Okay, let's go." "They're wonderful girls," Missy said as we sat on the couch shortly after returning to my house. "I'm glad you were able to get back together with them." I sighed. "Me too. I just wish my mom didn't have to die to do it. She snuggled up to me and I fell asleep hugging her. When I woke up in the morning, she covered us with a blanket and was still snuggling up to me. I missed being so close to someone. I kissed the top of her head and said, "I'm sorry I fell asleep on you." She moaned, stretching. "It's all right, baby. You've had a very emotional day. Would you like to join me and the girls for breakfast? Only if I can take Mia with me. My parents have plans for this morning." "Of course. My daughters will like her." Since we needed to pick up Mia, I asked my daughters to meet us at the IHOP. When I entered, holding Mia's hand, my girls rushed to her. In a matter of seconds, Mia was in their arms. They were spinning in the air, and then tickled her and showered with kisses. She was squealing and giggling the whole time with a huge smile right up to the scream, "I need to pee." The girls said in unison, "We'll take her away," and galloped off to the toilet. "I don't know, Missy. Do you think they'll get along?" I grinned. She playfully slapped me on the shoulder and kissed me on the cheek. "I hope they'll get along for years to come," she said. She was thinking pretty long-term, and technically we were only on one date. It was a little unnerving, but I was sure that I would survive this feeling. While we ate, Mia and my daughters chatted nonstop about everything in the world. From my observations, it was clear that Mia likes to talk, and not only about herself. She asked so many questions about my daughters' lives that I think even my girls were surprised. My daughters were neighborhood babysitters, so communicating with young children was their strong suit. They knew all the hot kids shows and movies, and Mia ate out of their palm. They also got along well with Missy. There was no hostility or any kind of anger when I met her, which shocked me. They refused to talk to me for months after my divorce, but once they met my new girlfriend, did they become best friends? I didn't understand this, and I'll need to see if I can get some kind of explanation from the girls about it. After dozens of phone calls, the start of the long process of cleaning my mother's house and a visit to the funeral home, I was finally able to sit down and relax. The girls came back to my house for dinner, and Missy and Mia went on their way after breakfast. Missy decided that it would be too emotional for us, and wanted to avoid the discomfort of Mia's presence, who asked questions about everything while we were sorting out my mom's house. "Dad, are you in love with Missy?" Jenny asked suddenly. We've only seen each other a couple of times outside of work. It's a little early to call it love." "Okay, Dad," Jill said as if I were an idiot. "Have you seen those good old cartoons where girls' eyes flutter and they fold their palms against their cheeks looking at their prince?" I nodded, taking a bite of pizza. "Well, she practically has hearts flying around her head when she looks at you and bats her eyes," Jill said. Before I could deny that she loved me, they looked at each other, turned to me and said, "We like her." I went from joy at seeing my daughters to anger. Throwing my piece on a plate, I wiped my hands and went to the sink. Leaning against the counter facing away from them, I tried to calm down. "Dad?" Jenny asked. "Girls, how could you break my heart for so long, and now you sit and say that you like my girlfriend? What have I done to you to make you think it's okay to shut yourself off from me, ignore me, tell me to go to hell when I saw you for the first time lately? What have I done? Do you know how many times I cried after leaving you a message, knowing that you don't care what you get? Mom made us do it." "What?" I exclaimed. Jill replied, "It started when Mom told us that if you think you're losing us too, you'll come back to her and we'll be a family again. We are so sorry." I turned around and Jenny jumped up to hug me when she saw a tear on my cheek. "Dad, forgive us. After it didn't work out, she told us that you left us and weren't going to pay for college because we wanted you to stay with her. She told us that the messages you left were just a ploy for you to use in the divorce, making it look like you were a good guy for the benefit of the judge. And you believe that? Dad, how would you react sitting with her day after day and listening to her defend her one-time mistake against 20 years of love? We thought you were being unreasonable." "Was I? Would you let your boyfriend cheat on you?" I didn't get a response. "Where is the line?" I asked decisively. "Once, 2, 5, answer me." They started crying and we hugged. Their hugs immediately calmed me down, and I felt terrible. "I'm really sorry, girls. I've missed you so much." After each of them expressed their love for me, I said, "It's time to take you home. You have school tomorrow. Don't forget to ask your mom to tell them about the wake and funeral. You'll need some free time this week." We hugged once more, and I watched with a warm heart as they drove away. I looked at the sky and said, "You didn't have to leave to bring the girls back to me, Mom, but thank you. I'm going to miss you." Commemorations are difficult for me because I always felt awkward sitting in the hall with a dead body. Mom's wake was especially hard. During the day, I went to the coffin several times and looked at her. She looked calm. I was glad that she would see my father again. He had died a few years earlier from cancer. He wanted another service without a wake. He, like me, thought it was strange when people talked to a corpse. Mom has already planned everything. I think with age, a person thinks about such things. She even chose a coffin. All I had to do was set a time and a day and sort out the small details of the room's layout and maintenance. I was glad she did it. Standing at the front of the room, I was talking to one of her friends when Katie and my girls came in. My daughters hugged me warmly and with tears in their eyes, and Katie, fortunately, left me alone. After saying a prayer, Katie put something in the coffin and went to the end of the hall, where she was sitting alone. I looked at what she had put there, and it was a picture of Katie and me hugging my mom. She held each of our babies in her arms, and on her face there was a smile a mile wide. Taking the photo that she had hidden in her side, I reverently placed it next to her hands. It was the first time I cried that day. Later, the priest wanted to start a prayer service. Katie did not leave her place at the end of the hall. She attracted everyone. You can't be a family member for as long as she was married and not get to know people, and they all loved her. According to the protocol, the next of kin had to sit in the first row of chairs. My girls were on my right, and Misty was on my left, but it didn't seem right to me. I stood up and turned around. At the back of the room, I saw Katie wiping tears from her eyes. It seemed to me that this was wrong. My mom wouldn't want that. Katie was her daughter as much as she was my wife. Then he walked to the end of the hall. When everyone was sitting waiting for the service to begin, I was noticed, and all eyes followed me. I held out my hand to Katie. "Come forward. You don't need to hide here." She started sobbing and hugged me. She whispered, "Thank you," when she let me go. We went to the front of the hall, and my Uncle John gave her his seat, which was next to my daughter. "You're a good man, Bill," Missy whispered, kissing me on the cheek. It was the strangest feeling I've ever had holding Missy's hand when my ex-wife was just a few steps away from me. I prayed that I would not regret it later and not have any problems with them. The day was ending. I was saying goodbye to the last visitors when Katie came up to me. Since Missy was next to me, I was wondering what Katie would do. I hoped she wouldn't start a fight, out of respect for my mother. "Bill, thank you for inviting me to the family today. It means more than you can imagine. She loved you like a daughter. It was the right thing to do. Oh, that reminds me. If you want, you can ride in the limo with us and the girls tomorrow." She hugged me and cried. I felt Missy's hand touch my lower back possessively, and I began to fear that a fight was about to start. "Well," Katie said, breaking the embrace, "if you don't need anything from me, I'm going home." I shook my head in refusal, and she gave Missy a brief smile. "I'm glad you're here for him. You may not know this, but he was Mom's son. Soon it will be very hard for him that she is no longer there." With that, she turned and left the room. Missy hugged me from the side and said, "Let's take you home." I threw the keys in the locker and went into the kitchen, glad that the day was over. Missy sat down at the table and accepted a cold beer from me. "I think everything went better with Katie than you expected. You did a good job with that," she said as I enjoyed my cold Sam Adams. "Yes, I'm glad. I really expected her to start something with you." "Well, I'm sure the girls helped with that. We just need to get through tomorrow and everything will be fine." I hope she was right. I do not know why I had an unpleasant feeling that Katie would not cope with communicating with Missy. I guess I'm just being paranoid. "Will you stay with me tonight?" I asked. She smiled and took my hand. "You can't kick me out even if you try." We didn't make love, but she was lying with me in a spoon, and it was the best dream since the divorce. "You're watching me like a hawk." "I'm not going to abuse your trust and start a quarrel," Katie said as we waited for prayer to begin. "I know that," I lied. "It's just inconvenient for me." She snorted. "How do you think I feel?" "I'm an outcast here, a cheater." I frowned. "No one thinks that of you, especially not today." "I'm really sorry, Bill. I wish I could make sure that this never happened. I'd like to—" She started crying and hurried to the bathroom. "It's hard for all of us, Bill," my mother's friend Jean said, patting me on the shoulder. "Your mother was a wonderful woman and we will all miss her." I kissed her on the cheek and thanked her, glad that Katie had a cover in the form of my mom, for her outburst of tears. After the funeral, we were seated at my mom's favorite Polish restaurant for lunch. The room was crowded, and Katie looked awkward when she was looking for an empty seat. And again, I went up to her and led her by the hand to the table where I was sitting with Missy and my daughters. Katie, we will always be a family regardless of the divorce. Wherever we sit, you will always be welcome. A tear rolled down her cheek as she sat and thanked me. I don't know when I came to terms with it, but it seemed to me that I finally forgot about the pain she caused. Life went on. The girls have enrolled in college and communicate with me on Skype every week. Missy and I are still together, and I'm close to asking a question. Katie and I don't talk much, but we're cordial. She also lives on, meets with the divorced father of a friend of one of the girls. He's a good guy. I hope they do well. Someone will say that I should have forgiven her for a one-time blunder, but I just can't do it. It might make me a bad guy in someone's mind, but I can live with myself.